like to welcome you to our studio here for sessions at WOUB. We're on the campus of Ohio University in Athens.
Thanks for having us.
California Guitar Trio. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. You can go ahead.
Paul Richards, originally from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Bert Lams from Belgium.
Hideo Moriya from Japan, Ibuko City.
That's great. You have a geographical name, the California Guitar Trio, but you guys are spread out all over the place.
Yes.
And you got your name because you started in California as a trio.
Yeah.
We started out there. I used to live there and invited Paul and Hideo to come and rehearse in our little house that we rented there in Los Angeles, in Hollywood area. And the first 2 years we worked together there in Los Angeles before we all kind of spread out a little bit. I live in Florida now. And Hideo has moved to America from Japan 2 years ago.
A couple years ago.
Let's talk about the tunes that you're going to play for us today. The first one is Melrose Avenue.
Melrose Avenue is one of the first tunes that we wrote together in Los Angeles. And we were driving in Bert's 67 Buick down Melrose Avenue on the way to one of our first gigs. And Hideo was inspired as we were driving the road, and he heard some melodies in his head. And Melrose is quite a chaotic street, and all different things happening on Melrose, and all different nationalities of people. And we went back to the house after we played our gig, and Hideo remembered these melodies. He started playing what he had heard in his head, and we sat down in Bert's living room and wrote the tune with Melrose Avenue, and it's been one of our favorite pieces to play live since the very early days. And it almost has an Arabic sound to it, which doesn't have a lot to do with Melrose Avenue, but somehow that being on that place inspired that.
You started in 1991
Yes.
in California as
Yes.
the California Guitar Trio, but you got together because of guitar it's a school, right, that Robert Fripp, famous for King Crimson, put on in England, right?
Well, Robert Fripp started these guitarcraft courses in 1985, and they were originally held at a retreat center near Washington, D.C. And then he moved the operation over to England, where he lives, and he had a house in the English countryside where he invited some of the students to come and live and work and study together. And that's where we met, at the Red Lion House in Cranbourne, Dorset, England. And we were there on and off for 1987 and 1988. And during that time we were studying music with Robert. He was at the house a lot. And then we formed a group called the League of Crafty Guitarists that did some touring in Europe and also in the US. And after a couple of years of playing together with Robert and the League of Crafty Guitarists, we moved to Los Angeles in 1991.
So that was 25 years ago. And when you went to England, you didn't know each other then, right? You met,
No.
you met at the...
On the guitarcraft courses, yeah.
And it's nice that you get along.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we met that we were all three part of a group called the League of Crafty Guitarists, which
Right.
was a group of students that went out and performed with Robert Fripp. And the three of us kind of had the commonality. I think some of the elements, one element that drew us together was that all three of us love classical music. And I think we started kind of jamming and playing some pieces together during those tours with the League of Crafty Guitarists, and then later formed the trio.
Another tune that does sort of have an ethnic feeling is Chacarero.
That one came about when the initial ideas when we were down in Argentina, and we did some concerts down there with Robert and also on our own. And I had been working on the ideas for that piece, and I became friends with some Argentinian musicians, and I was playing these ideas for these Argentinian musician friends, and they said, that reminds me of chacarera, which is a traditional Argentinian folk rhythm. And so we did some further investigation, and while we were there, my friends introduced me to some music of a man named Atahualpa Yupanqui, who's a traditional Argentinian folklore folk player. And so I let that be the influence for that piece. But if you listen to the real chacarera, and you can find some of the Atahualpa Yupanqui's music on YouTube, and hear where that kind of the basic rhythm came from. But our style, we incorporated our odd time signatures and our juxtaposing different rhythms and things on top of the chacarera rhythm.
So it's sort of a faux chacarero.
Yeah, our version of what our take on it. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3.
I want to talk about your repertoire, and you play 4 pieces for us this afternoon. Your repertoire is way all over the place. A lot of times you think of a guitar trio as doing maybe Baroque or classical, but you seem to not be bound by any particular genre. I know you were a classical, you said you were all classical players, but I know, Hideo, you were more into like surf guitar.
Yes. I'm not trained classical guitar. I mean,
You're not?
no.
When we first started playing together in Los Angeles, we, as Bert mentioned earlier, the classical music was one of the things that drew us together. And Bert chose a few Bach fugues for us to play as a challenge to improve our playing together. So we started working on these Bach fugues together, and it was a challenge for sure. And it did help our playing. And one day we were rehearsing this really, serious Bach stuff, and Hideo started playing the riff from Pipeline, and that was such a relief in a way after focusing on this serious repertoire to have this something that he'd been playing since he was a teenager, and we liked that the transition from going from that very serious to something very playful, and so that kind of kicked us off in this idea that we can do pretty much any kind of music and put it together, and it works somehow for us.
You did a Bach piece.
That stems from our courses with Robert Fripp, and one of the things that he did there was put all the guitar players in a large circle and have them play one note and pass it around the circle from one player to the other. And what seems to be a very easy thing, but it was for most of us really hard in the beginning. And this kind of evolved. We incorporated that exercise in the trio, in our playing, and also in some arrangements, different arrangements that we make. And this piece that we are playing, this prelude circulation, is all arranged as a circulation. So I play the first note, Paul plays the second, Hideo plays the third in succession, and we play the whole piece like that.
So it sounds like one guitar playing arpeggio, but it's completely divided between 3 people.
Yeah.
And the effect is odd because it's stereophonic in a way,
Yeah, it's a little more of a
com-
harpsichord sound
Yeah.
that well too, because all the notes are, it's originally written for lute, so the notes don't sound sustained on the lute. It would be sort of like saying, and when we play it, we have all the notes sustained through the circulation, so it gives a whole different character to the piece.
Circulation is one of the most profound techniques that we learned on the Robert Fripp guitar courses. There's a lot to it. On one hand, it's a way of learning to listen to each other, because in order to be able to play my note at just the right time, I have to listen to the other 2 notes. And so it becomes more of a group dynamic and listening to each other rather than, it's not about how fast you can play or what a virtuoso player you are. We're just each playing one note. So it's about listening to each other and how the notes pass between amongst the 3 of us. So it's a very powerful exercise in listening, and when we're all listening and focusing in, it can start to flow. And we've played that piece for a few years now, and in the beginning it was very rigid and very in time. And now we can start to sense each other and listen into each other, and it has more of a flow.
And it changes every time we
It's
play
different
it.
every time.
That's exciting.
It has different dynamics.
Yeah,
That
it's fluid and flexible. Yeah,
Yes.
you could.
Yeah.
When we started playing this piece, we were in Italy, on tour in Italy, and we played it every night in front of an audience. But it was so scary because one of us it would be guaranteed in the beginning that one of us would at least drop a note or 2. And the nature of the circulation is you pass it around. Whatever happens, you pass around. So you forget something, you pass around forgetfulness. So the next guy would drop out, and then there's one guy playing, and in the end we would all 3 drop out. So what we ended up doing was we said, whatever happens, if somebody forgets his note, just keep playing, don't stop. So we ended, when one of us would forget the note, he would just play a random note. So this Bach prelude would morph into an atonal
circulation.
Circulation that was very strange.
Yeah.
But exciting.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the guitars. Now, you all have guitars made by the same luthier,
Yeah.
Breedlove, right?
Yes.
And they're all different shapes. They're different guitars, but they're, well, they're beautiful, for one thing. Could you talk about it? And I also wanted to ask you about Fripp's approach to the new standard tuning a guitar in a completely different way. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
something about the Breedlove guitar.
Yeah, so these guitars are made in Bend, Oregon, and Breedlove is a company that they've been around for quite a while, but I think they're one of the most underrated guitar companies that's out there. They make some beautiful instruments, and my guitar and Bert's guitar is very similar. They're both made out of walnut, with walnuts on the back and sides and spruce on the top. And Hideo's guitar is made out of spruce on the top and maple on the sides and back, and has more of a modern, futuristic design on his instrument. And we've been working with Breedlove off and on for maybe 8 years now. And we all have other guitars that we play too on occasion, but I'd say Breedlove is the one that we've kind of stuck to the most over the years. But we've played Taylors and Martins and custom-made instruments by smaller luthiers. And so we like to experiment with different guitars. And so we use a tuning that we learned on the Robert Fripp Guitarcraft courses called New Standard Tuning, and it's based in fifths. It's more like a cello. The lowest 4 strings are the same as a cello, and the middle are the same as the violin, and then G on the top. Bert can help me give a demonstration here. So the standard guitar strings are, the open strings sound like this. It's E, A, D, G, B, and E. And our open strings are C, G, D, A, E, and G. So very different than standard tuning. The lower notes are tuned lower and the higher notes are higher, which expands the range of the guitar. And it makes it possible for us to play things that might not normally be played on the guitar.
You do a mashup of two tunes that everybody knows. Sons of the Pioneers did Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Yes.
And of course, the Doors did Riders in the Storm. So you do Ghost Riders in the Storm, is that what you call it?
We call it Riders on the Storm. And back when I had the original idea to combine those two pieces, I thought that I was just making a very clever combination between two unrelated pieces. And I got the idea simply from the commonality in the titles between the two pieces. So I was at home and I think I heard the Doors version of that, and I was listening to it, and somehow the idea popped, oh, maybe we could do some, we like to combine things that normally don't go together. So we made this arrangement, and it's been a popular piece during our live concerts. And then just in the last year, just recently, a friend forwarded me a YouTube video of Ray Manzarek explaining what the process the Doors went through in the studio back in the 60s in Los Angeles when they wrote the Riders on the Storm. And he talks about how they actually started out by jamming on Ghost Riders in the Sky, and that somehow morphed into Riders on the Storm. So those two pieces do belong together, and somehow I had the natural sense to have the idea to put them together.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, Ray Manzarek just passed away last month.
Yes.
And he's the guy, of course, who came up with that great arpeggiated lick that you play on the guitar.
Yes, yeah, what a beautiful player too, and on this video that you can find on YouTube where he plays the solo version of that while he's explaining this, starting out with the old cowboy song.
1, 2, 3.
I should let you go. You're playing at Jorma Kaukonen's Fur Peace Ranch, and you've
Yes.
been down there before, and
Yeah.
that's a great place for guitar players to hang out and hear.
A great place for guitar players. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, yeah. Last time we had a sold-out show there last year, and so they've invited us back again. And all the greatest guitar players get to play there. I know Tommy Emmanuel was just there recently, and David Lindley, and on and on and on. And so it's a real honor for us to be included in the variety of guitarists that they have there, because the level of players that are playing there is very high, so it's a big honor for us to play there.
And it's an honor for us here at Sessions to have the California Guitar Trio here in our studio. Thanks so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thank you.